like a grand and miraculous spaceship, our planet has sailed through the universe of time.
Like a grand and miraculous spaceship.
Grand and miraculous.
Grand and miraculous.
I think with the Muppets, there's sort of an innocence to them, you know? Mm-hmm. And I think that's something that appeals to the child in everybody. Because I think everybody is a child still.
Well, we all want to build a time machine, Doc. So when you enter Disneyland, you're entering a time machine.
I only hope that we never lose sight of one thing, that it was all started by a mouse.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to Grand and Miraculous, and a very happy birthday to this gentleman right here who has a big smile on his face, Mickey Mouse. As you all know, Steamboat Willie debuted on this day back in 1928, marking today his pseudo-unofficial birthday. So we'd all like to get together and wish happy birthday to Mickey. And I thought tonight would be a particularly interesting night to talk about one of his lesser known attractions, but one that's very keen and dear to everybody's heart who knows it, called the Mickey Mouse Revue. Now, many of you have never seen, much less heard about this attraction before, so we'll cover it in some depth tonight and talk about why it was so meaningful. So hope everybody's doing great. Let's remove Mickey for the moment, and I would like to welcome you to tonight's episode, number 23. Hard to believe. But before I do, let me pop into chat and say hi to some good folks. So I see Beaker and Honeydew very often the first in chat. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you guys. Trish, hope you're doing great. Thanks for popping in. Miss Debbie Bernfeld. Hope you're doing fantastic, Debbie. Lamons Gray's in the house. Hey, Lamons. Let's see. Miss K Bell. Hello, Miss K. And I saw Dad pop in there too. So hope you're doing great. Scroll. Miss Karen Cook is in the house. Hello, Karen. Mattercam Matt. Hey, Matt. Hope you're doing fantastic today. And scroll. Miss Oodalali Lane, Kate herself. Kate was a big help on this episode tonight. She's a big fan of this attraction, so I hope I do the attraction right by her tonight. And Jason Thibodeau is in the house. Hey, Jason. Mr. Dave is in the house. Hey, Dave. And I think that's it for now. If I see more names pop in, I will definitely say hello. So in the case that you're new here tonight, let me tell you a little bit about what we're all about. This show is about unveiling the magic behind theme park attractions. We like to explore their creators, their immersive worlds, and the moments that keep us coming back. Most importantly, with your voice shaping the journey. It's not just me up here spouting off for an hour. It's your voice that makes the difference just as much as mine does. As always, I like to start with some trivia. So tonight's trivia, we're going back to different types of tickets. So as you may remember, back in the original days, every Disney attraction had a ticket that you had to give to enter the attraction. A, B, C, D, E. A being some of the lighter attractions like the omnibus on Main Street, and E ticket, of course, being the most intense and thrilling attractions. So what do you think the ticket was to watch the Mickey Mouse Revue? So go ahead and punch in what you think it is in chat. Also, in the rare occasion that you actually have memories of this attraction, I'd like you definitely please share verbosely your memories of this great attraction in the chat, because many of our friends have never seen it. Many of our friends have never heard of it. So it would be great if you could help me out and share some of what this attraction meant to you. As always, we like to encourage you to go to our website, grandmiraculous.com. Tonight's code is MMRV. Couldn't find a good 4-letter code tonight. So it's Mickey Mouse Revue, MMRV. So go ahead and especially after you've seen the episode and you've gotten a sense of what this attraction is like, go to the website, please, and you can enter your vote as well. We got some great votes last week, and I'd like to keep up that trend. So let me pop up over to chat, and if I see some more folks pop in, I will definitely say hello. So, like I mentioned, today is Mickey's birthday, and I thought it would be a fantastic day to cover this attraction. I was debating between this and Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, but given the nostalgia and the retro nature of this show, I thought it would be best to tackle the review first. And we can come back and talk about Runaway Railway another day. But tonight, here he is, Mr. Mouse himself. We're going to be talking about the Mickey Mouse Revue tonight, episode 23. That, my friends, is a very special painting in my family's heritage. We will talk more about that in a little bit. But that was the either the official or unofficial poster for the attraction for quite a number of years. And we'll talk about why that is so meaningful in a little bit. Okay, so as always, I like to talk about what we do here on this show. It's very difficult to evaluate theme park attractions objectively. It's very subjective most of the time. So I'm asserting that there are 3 different axes or pillars that you can use to tease these attractions apart. These are immersion, storytelling, and delight. These are under review. We are always thinking about whether these are the right ways to dissect an attraction or not. And yeah, time will tell whether these are the ones that actually work or not. But so far, it's working pretty well. And so far, we're going to stick with them as much as we can. We represent these ratings as radar plots. So each axis has its own axis. And basically, without getting into the math, the more of the blue triangle you see, the better the rating is. If you see less of it along a certain axis, like you see here in this example, you know, maybe the attraction was very immersive and very fun, but maybe it was a little bit lacking on the storytelling side. That's how that works out. And as always, I desperately need your opinion and your voice. My opinion is just an opinion. So I've set up the website, grandmiraculous.com. There's no and in it, but go ahead and go there and punch in the code MMRV, and you can share your opinion as well. I see some friends in chat. Alyssa and Neil. Hey, Neil. Hope you're doing fantastic. And Mima WH. Hey, how's it going? Great to see you as always. Hopefully, it's one fine day YouTube will fix the username issue in chat. We are a proud member of the Disney Streamer Network, so you can go any time of the day to dsn.disneystreams.com and find some wonderful partners and other streamers online. We are very honored to be part of that. I just saw Lawrence and Corey streaming before this, so they're running the show here, and I'm very grateful for what they're doing. And as always, please go and support some kind of a group, charity, whatnot. You know, the one I like is the Lake Buena Vista Historical Society. I've talked about retro magic so many times here, and I'd just like to encourage you to keep keep being generous with groups like this, because these stories, my friends, are disappearing very quickly. And it's very important to immortalize these stories, not only to get them right, but also to share along attractions like the one we're talking about tonight, because it's largely disappeared from the general Disney conscious. So it's good to keep them up to date. Okay, let's get into it. So this attraction, the Mickey Mouse Revue, is beloved by so many people. Unfortunately, it's not remembered by so many people. So we're hoping to change that a little bit tonight. Oh, Dave, I didn't realize that. Okay, well, I guess I'll have to just get used to usernames then. Thanks for the update. As always, we start with facts and figures. There are arguably two instances of this attraction. It was actually just one, but it was moved. Originally, it opened opening day of Magic Kingdom in Walt Disney World on October 1st, 1971, and it closed September 14th, 1980. So it was about 8 years or so, 8+ years. When Tokyo Disneyland opened, they shipped it to Tokyo Disneyland so it can open with the park as well on April 15th, 1983. It had a much, much longer run there in Tokyo Disneyland, and it lasted there until May 25th, 2009. So for our Japanese friends, this attraction is much better known to them than it is to us. And we'll see why in a little bit. As always, I like to talk about some key Imagineers before we get into the attraction. I wish I could cover every single person who worked on these great attractions, but I have to pick a few and highlight some of their contributions. Tonight, I couldn't talk about this attraction without this gentleman, Mr. Bill Justice. We haven't covered Bill tonight, or so far on this show. And Bill was an extraordinary animator. He joined Disney in 1937, and he animated classics like Fantasia, Alice in Wonderland, and characters like Chip and Dale. He was an innovator in shorts and stop motion. He directed a lot of experimental shorts in the 50s, and he earned many Academy Award nominations and pioneered stop motion techniques. He was an Imagineering pioneer. He transitioned to WED in 1965, and he programmed audio animatronics for many attractions, including the Pirates of the Caribbean, Haunted Mansion, Country Bears, and of course, tonight we're talking about the Mickey Mouse Revue. He was a parade and park designer. He designed floats and costumes for Disneyland's early parades, and he contributed to the Main Street Electrical Parade. We don't often talk about parades on this show, and we might change that. Maybe we'll have a few episodes about a parade here and there to spice things up. He retired in 1979 after 42 years. He authored a book called Justice for Disney, and he remained active in Disneyana circles until he passed away at age 97 in 2011. Oh, and that's his window on Main Street. You'll forgive the vanity, but he shares a window with my grandfather right there on the right. And we're very honored to have two juggernauts to the left of that window, Claude Coates, who we talk about constantly on this show, as well as Mark Davis. So next time you're on Main Street, take a peek above the House of Magic facade, and you can see this window. Mr. John Hench, we've talked about John Hench quite a bit on this show. I won't reiterate the details, but John was involved in the overview and the kind of the management of the creation of this attraction as well. So we got to tip our hat to Mr. Hench as well. Claude Coates, similar story. I feel like I should make this slide permanent in almost every episode. Claude has fingers in so many attractions. And if you come out away from nothing from this series is to appreciate all of the hard work many of the people like Claude Coates invested in blood, sweat, and tears into these attractions, many of which you may never have heard of. Walthall Rogers, we get to talk about tonight. So some of you may recall when we did the Carousel of Progress episode, I showed a little video where Walt Disney was showing a gentleman, maneuvering an audio animatronic. Well, that was none other than this gentleman. So he was an early animator. He joined Disney in 1939, and he contributed to classics like Pinocchio, Bambi, and so forth. He was a sculptor and model maker. He had a hobby of sculpting and building toys, and it caught Walt's eye, leading to props and miniatures for things like Darby O'Gill, Absent-Minded Professor, and so forth. He helped design the model shop for Disneyland in 1954. And he was known as, quote unquote, Mr. Audio Animatronics. He led Project Little Man, which was a prototype for audio animatronics and became the go-to Imagineer for many of the attractions that we know and love. He created Abraham Lincoln for Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln. He contributed to Pirates, and he helped develop Benjamin Franklin, who was the first walking audio animatronic for Epcot's American Adventure. Harriet Burns, we've talked about before too. Harriet Burns was a phenomenon at WED. She was one of, if not the first female Disney Imagineers, one of the first 3 original members of the model shop, and so forth. And she had a hands-on role with the Mickey Mouse Revue, and I wanted to call her out as well. Harry Holt, we haven't talked about. Harry Holt joined Disney in 1936. He worked on Snow White and Pinocchio, and he became a full animator in 1943, working mostly on Pluto and Donald Duck shorts. He left Disney actually in 1956, and he moved to Hanna-Barbera, where he worked on Flintstones, Jetsons, and MGM, working on Tom and Jerry. He actually returned to Disney for sculpting merchandise and projects like Epcot and Tokyo. What's a particularly nice story is that he delighted Magic Kingdom guests by drawing them with live sketches from age 76 until 83, which is fun to see. I wish more Imagineers did that. And this is very special for me. This is a very dear friend of our family, Mr. Michael McCracken. If Mike's son is out there watching, hey, Mike, hope you're doing great. Thanks for all the information you gave us. Michael's really interesting. Not only is he a friend of the family, but he was one of the only artists to be employed by Disney, not only as a lead sculptor, but also as an illustrator. So it's rare to find people who are master works and can create amazing pieces of art in both media. He was taught and mentored by the Academy Award makeup artist John Chambers, and for the Mickey Mouse Revue, he sculpted Bambi and Mother. And I wanted to point this out. Mike actually sent some wonderful pictures, and this is some behind-the-scenes pictures of the original Bambi sculpture that his dad did. So thank you, Mike. Joe Caba, Mike pointed me out at Joe Caba, and Joe has a fascinating story. He was also one of the first original Disney WED sculptors after Blaine Gibson, and he was born in Budapest, Hungary in 1928. His mom died, and he sent to live as an orphanage at age 7. Well, he fled to Austria during World War II, and he was safe in an orphanage. That's where he started studying art. And during the Hungarian Revolution, he continued his art studies in a UN refugee camp. Now, he immigrated to Hollywood in the 50s, where he found work in Hollywood sculpting for the film industry, and that's where he got the attention of Walt, and he sculpted Snow White, Mickey, Cinderella, Snow White, and many of the 7 Dwarfs for this attraction. All right. So again, that's not everybody who worked on it, but I like to highlight a few key figures. And I'm gracious, very thankful to Mike McCracken for sending me that information. And I want to salute his dad. So like I said, today's episode is very special. We're celebrating Mickey Mouse's birthday, as you know. On November 18th, 1928, Mickey made his debut in Steamboat Willie. Now, of course, that wasn't his first appearance, but traditionally, this is what we treat as Mickey's birthday, is November 18th. And of course, ever since, he's been the voice of Disney magic. So we're spotlighting one of his lesser-known starring roles tonight, the Mickey Mouse Revue. Now, this was a musical attraction. It opened in Disney World in 1971, and it brought together dozens of lots of beloved characters in a very happy performance led by Mickey himself. Now, though the review eventually closed, it remains a fascinating piece of history. Tonight, we'll honor both Mickey's birthday and the legacy of this charming show. So where did it come from? It traces its roots back all the way to Walt Disney himself, as many things do. In a 1962 interview, Walt spoke about his new audio animatronic technology, which of course he was justly proud of, and it was first seen in the Enchanted Tiki Room. Well, he had plans to use it for all of Disney's characters, and this spark eventually grew into what was known as the Mickey Mouse Musical Revue. Now, Disney legend Bill Justice took the lead. He sketched characters and built scale models to bring the concept to life. He was joined by Imagineers John Hench, Walthall Rogers, Michael McCracken, Harry Holt, Joe Caba, who helped the show's design and sculpted many of its figures. As I'll point out in a second, there were so many audio animatronics on this show. Now, when the Magic Kingdom opened in 1971, the Mickey Mouse Revue was one of the original attractions, and it realized Walt's dream of a grand stage where all of Disney's characters could sing together in harmony. This is a fun picture of an old Mickey short called Mickey's Revue, which is potentially where some of the ideas came from. Some of you may remember this short where Mickey is up on stage, and I love the asbestos curtain. This is another great picture of a paper model that was originally created to kind of come up with some of the original ideas of all the Disney characters on stage, essentially in an orchestra. So what was the show exactly? So imagine walking into a theater where Mickey Mouse himself takes a podium as conductor of a grand orchestra. Now, on Walt Disney World's opening day in 1971, guests were treated to this musical celebration, and it featured more than 80 audio animatronic Disney characters, and they were all performing beloved songs from the studio's history. Now, this wasn't just a show, it was a tribute to Disney's musical heritage, and at the time, it blended cutting-edge technology with the audio animatronics with lots of timeless storytelling. Now, for many people, it was kind of a hidden gem tucked inside the Magic Kingdom, and it was a big opportunity to surprise and delight guests who may not have been familiar with it. Gotta talk about this gentleman. Now, while Walt planted the seed, of course, the review came from the imagination of Bill Justice. Now, he worried that attractions like Pirates of the Caribbean, now these were popular attractions, of course, they may have lacked some of Disney's animated heritage. So he envisioned a show that would remind audiences of Walt's accomplishments, with Mickey Mouse as a center, of course. And he started with sketches and a tiny paper cutout model that I showed. He refined the idea into a room-sized miniature theater. It had lighting, turntables, and sculpted figures. And when Roy O. Disney reviewed the model, he gave Justice the highest praise of his career. He said, quote, "This is a kind of show we should spend our money on." And with that, the Mickey Mouse Revue was born. This is a picture of where it was originally located. So some of you may be familiar with the original layout of Fantasyland. Well, the Mickey Mouse Revue is where PhilharMagic is today in Florida. So that's where it was. And we'll talk about PhilharMagic a little bit too in a little bit. So opening day came along. Let's rewind to October 1st, 1971, which was the grand opening of Walt Disney World itself. Now, among the many attractions that opened that day was the Mickey Mouse Revue, tucked inside Fantasyland, of course. Now, guests entered a theater where Mickey Mouse himself conducted an orchestra of all kinds of Disney characters, performing songs from across the studio's history. Now, this was a celebration of the musical legacy, and it stood very proud alongside other opening day classics like The Haunted Mansion and the Country Bear Jamboree. Now, for many, the Revue was a hidden gem, and it really perfectly captured the spirit of Disney's new Florida Kingdom. Now, I know many of you have never seen this attraction before, so what I'd like to do is to spend a few minutes showing you the opening of this show. Now, I have footage from Tokyo because it's more modern and it's fresher looking footage, but just imagine for the moment you entered this theater in 1971 and you saw this. I'm not going to show the whole show because it's honestly a bit of a song copyright minefield, but I'll show the opening, the first 2 minutes, where you can get a sense of what the orchestra was like and maybe a bit of the ending.
Welcome to the Mickey Mouse Revue and no flash photography please. Thank you. さあ、ミッキーと仲間たちが皆さんにお送りいたします。ミッキーマウスレビューです。 Mickey Mouse Revue.
Now, that was the opening of the show. It then went into different types of scenes. For example, Snow White singing her song, Alice in Wonderland singing her song, and so forth. Let me just fast forward to the end, because at the end, there was a grand finale with, of course, those characters you may remember. And we'll see if we can watch the end, too.
It's factual, everything is satisfactual. Zippity-doo-dah, zippity-yay. My, oh my, what a wonderful day. Plenty of sunshine heading my way. Zippity-doo-dah, zippity-yay. Mr. Bluebird on my shoulder. It's the truth, it's factual, everything is satisfactual. Zippity-doo-dah, zippity-yay. Wonderful feeling, a wonderful, beautiful
So I hope it gives you a little sense of the show, and I'd encourage you to watch the full thing if you've never seen it before. We've added it to our attraction playlists, the ride through. So go and watch the whole thing. It's a lot of fun, especially the individual scenes. And I love that character of Ka from Jungle Book. He's playing his own tail like a flute. I don't want to know how the holes got there, but anyway, it's a wonderful little touch there, and I think it's fun how they incorporated all the different characters. So, the Mickey Mouse Revue, of course, was born out of WED, which was Imagineering back in the day, and their goal was to create attractions that weren't just rides, but they were experiences that really celebrated the legacy of Disney. Now, for the Revue, they turned to music, of course. This was a heartbeat of Disney storytelling, and it placed Mickey Mouse as the center, as conductor, as you saw. Now, this wasn't just about entertainment. It was about honoring Mickey as a cultural icon while showcasing the studio's musical heritage. Of course, they included audio animatronics and clever staging, and Imagineers blended nostalgia with innovation, so this show felt both timeless and groundbreaking. One of the things I couldn't show here was a scene with the Three Caballeros, and what was interesting about that one is that they had some musical effects and in-theater effects where they magically appeared in one corner of the theater and the other. Of course, there were two different sets of characters, but that was the kind of thing that they added to spice up. So it wasn't just, a bunch of characters singing songs. They added a whole bunch of fun elements like that as well. So where did this idea come from? Of course, at its core, the Revue was a musical celebration. So Mickey Mouse stepped up as conductor, baton in hand, leading an orchestra made up of Disney's most beloved characters. Some of you who are familiar with PhilharMagic probably find this concept very familiar. More than 80 audio animatronics, which was a big deal at the time, filled the stage. These days we hear about attractions with one or two new animatronics. Imagine 80 of them. They were all performing songs from the studio's classics. Snow White, Cinderella, Alice in Wonderland, and many more. Now, the great idea about the concept was its unities. Different characters from different worlds and stories, they all came together through music. So they created a kind of a joyful harmony that reminded everybody of Disney's connection to song. Now, at the heart of the Revue, of course, was Mickey Mouse himself, stepping into the role of maestro. He had a baton in his hand. He stood at the podium and he guided an orchestra of all kinds of beloved Disney characters. Now, this wasn't just a clever staging choice. It was very symbolic. Mickey wasn't just part of the show, he was the leader. He was the one who brought Disney's musical heritage all together in harmony. So for guests, seeing Mickey as conductor reinforced his role as a face of Disney magic, orchestrating not only the performance, but the legacy itself. Again, put yourself into the shoes of someone entering the Magic Kingdom. You have many, many wonderful attractions all around the park, but you don't often see the characters, and you rarely saw Mickey unless he was actually out and about. So to actually have a show that featured him, I know a lot of us felt when Runaway Railway came out, hey, finally we have an attraction that features Mickey Mouse. Well, the Revue really kind of was first amongst that line. So Runaway Railway, PhilharMagic, other attractions like that continue on this great heritage. And if you will forgive me for a moment, I have to delve into family history for a bit. So this was a painting on the left my grandfather made. It was made for something called DAFCA, the Disney Artists for CalArts. And it turned out to be so popular that it became either official or unofficial poster for the attraction itself. And I want to point out in the corner, very, very rarely do you see the artists actually sign this kind of print. So it very proudly has my grandfather's name on it. The reason I point it out is that it was featured in the Poster Arts of Disney Parks book, that wonderful coffee table book. You should get a copy. And we're really proud of this portrait because not only does it showcase my grandfather's art style, but it actually is a wonderful representation of Mickey as Maestro. And it's wonderful to have that in the family. So forgive me for that. Let's talk about the ensemble. So like I mentioned, one of the most amazing aspects of the Revue was its cast. These were over 80 audio and animatronic characters, and they featured Snow White, Cinderella, Dumbo, and dozens more, and they are all performing their signature songs. Now, each figure was designed to capture the spirit of its film. Now, there were dwarves singing Hi-Ho, there was Alice's musical World of Wonder with the flowers, and together they formed a living orchestra, blending Disney's all kinds of diverse stories into one unforgettable performance. Now, at the time, no other attraction featured such a massive ensemble of characters, making the Revue truly unique. Of course, there were a few others that we'll talk about, for example, the Hall of Presidents, but we'll get to that in a second. And the Revue wasn't just about its characters. It was about the music that really defined Disney's golden age. The show opened with an overture that you just saw, blended classics like Hi-Ho, Whistle While You Work, and so forth. And from there, guests were treated to a series of musical vignettes. For example, the Three Little Pigs singing Who's Afraid of the Big Bad Wolf. They had Snow White singing I'm Wishing, and the Dwarf Silly Song. Alice made an appearance with the flowers, and the lively trio of Donald, Jose, and Panchito with the Three Caballeros made an appearance as well. Cinderella's transformation was set to Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo, followed by her duet, So This Is Love. And finally, the entire cast joined together, as you saw, singing Zippity Doo-Dah, and it closed with a Mickey Mouse alma mater, a fitting tribute to Disney's musical legacy. Now, the Revue wasn't just a show. It was kind of an experience. You know, when you entered the theater, it was styled like a grand concert hall. Rows of seats faced a proscenium stage where Disney stood proudly at the conductor's podium. And the stage itself was very cleverly designed because it had multiple tiers that rose and descended. So different groups of characters could appear in their own vignettes. Of course, if you've seen shows like The American Adventure and so forth, you might think this is old hat, but this was pretty innovative for its day. Lighting, sound effects gave the impression of a live performance. And the layout made the show feel really expansive because dozens of characters from across Disney's history truly came together for one big orchestra. Now, behind the curtain, the Mickey Mouse Revue was a technological marvel. Imagineering brought over 80 audio animatronic characters to life, and each were carefully synchronized to music and dialogue. Now, characters didn't just stand still. They played instruments, they sang, they moved in rhythm with the soundtrack. And there was a complex multi-track audio system that ensured that every voice and effect were blended. The review showcased Disney's mastery of combining storytelling with robotics, much like they did in the Enchanted Tiki Room and other attractions. And this really paved the way for shows like PhilharMagic and other technologically advanced shows. Now, it's fascinating to take a step back and think a little bit about how Imagineering used audio animatronics in two very, very different ways. And on Walt Disney's opening day, there was another attraction called the Hall of Presidents. And it's useful to juxtapose what the review was trying to do with what the hall was trying to do. Now, of course, the Mickey Mouse Revue was lighthearted, it was whimsical, and it was a musical celebration of Disney's animated heritage. Meanwhile, of course, the Hall of Presidents was solemn, it was patriotic, and it presented every U.S. president on stage. So both were masterworks of audio animatronics. One celebrated fantasy and nostalgia, and the other honored history and national pride. Together, the reason I'm mentioning this is that it showed the incredible range of what WED was able to do, using the same fundamental technology to deliver two radically different experiences, but both delivered magic and serious storytelling. Now, what did fans think about this attraction? Now, for many families, it was a really happy surprise. It was a whimsical show. It was filled with nostalgic Disney songs and lots of characters brought to life. The animatronics impressed audiences, although some noticed the voices weren't quite the same as the original film soundtracks. Now, at first, the review, and this answers our trivia question tonight, it was originally classified as an e-ticket attraction. Now, some of us may look at this and say, oh, wow, that's wild that it opened as an e-ticket. So, of course, over time, as audiences dwindled, it was later shifted to a D ticket. So if you either answered E or D, you're right either way. It opened as an E and then transitioned to a D. Still, the show built a loyal following. And for those who experienced it, like some people in chat tonight, the review remains a very cherished memory of Disney World's early years. What made this attraction really unique was the way it combined scale, nostalgia, and innovation, because at the time, no other attraction featured such a massive cast of audio animatronic characters. There were 80 figures performing together in harmony. Now, the show blended songs and characters from across Disney's animated history into one big performance, with Mickey Mouse himself, of course, elevated as maestro. Now, unlike the other rides and adventures in Fantasyland, the review offered a concert hall experience. So it was a good opportunity for guests to sit back, kick back, and enjoy Disney's musical heritage for about 10 minutes or so. Now, it was both a tribute to the past and a showcase of Imagineering's future. So it was truly one of a kind attraction at the time. Now, all good things come to an end, of course, and by 1980, the review had quietly taken its final bow. It was beloved by fans, but the attraction really struggled because it had a hard time competing with all the thrill rides and larger shows that drew bigger audiences. So the corporation saw the review as charming, but very low profile, and it took a big footprint in Fantasyland. So they ultimately decided to close it on September 14th, 1980. Now, the good news is that rather than retire it completely, Imagineers chose to give the show a second life, and this was overseas in Tokyo Disneyland for its grand opening in 1983. So in Florida, Mickey's days as maestro came to an end for now, but the review's legacy continued on the world stage. So, like I mentioned, it didn't just end in Florida. Instead, Imagineers gave it a second life in Tokyo Disneyland. In 1983, it reopened in Tokyo Disneyland as part of the park's grand opening. So once again, guests were able to step into a Fantasyland theater to see Mickey conduct his orchestra of beloved Disney characters. Now, what was great was that Japanese audiences really embraced this attraction wholeheartedly. They saw it as a joyful celebration of Disney's musical legacy. And remarkably, this attraction enjoyed a much longer run in Tokyo than it ever did in Florida, and it delighted guests until 2009. So almost about 27 years or so. 26, give or take. And in many ways, its journey to Japan, it ensured that the show's legacy lived on for a new generation of fans. Now, what was its reaction in Japan? It truly found a big audience there. When it opened, it was brought over from Florida. Of course, it was dubbed into Japanese, but it became instantly accessible. And because of the songs, it resonated deeply with local fans, who of course saw Mickey not just as a Disney character, but as a cultural icon. The revue's whimsical blend of music and nostalgia really struck a chord. And unlike its short run in Florida, it remained in Tokyo for a large number of years. And its longevity is proof of the affection that Japanese audiences gave for this attraction. And it kept Mickey's role as maestro alive for many generations. But of course, it had to close one day too. And on May 25th, 2009, the Mickey Mouse Revue took its final bow in Tokyo Disneyland. So after delighting audiences for about 26 years, the show was retired to make way for an attraction that most of us know today called Mickey's PhilharMagic. This was a modern 3D musical adventure, but it carried forward the spirit of this show in a new way. So for fans, the closure marked the end of an era. The Revue had been a kind of charming bridge between Disney's past and its future, and it blended nostalgia with imagineering innovation. Now, of course, although it's gone today, its memory lives on as one of the most unique and beloved attractions in Disney history. And it's interesting also to note where these animatronics went. For example, Mickey himself is in the archives, in the Family Museum, I believe. And the Three Caballeros, you may know them if you have been to Epcot and you board the Grand Fiesta ride in Mexico. You could see them there. So they live on in different ways. Now, the Revue may be gone, but its legacy truly endures. As one of Walt Disney World's opening day attractions, it set the tone for how Disney could use audio animatronics to celebrate its heritage. So by uniting characters and songs from across Disney films, the Revue elevated Mickey Mouse as maestro. It really symbolized his role as a guiding force of Disney magic. It also demonstrated Imagineering's versatility. So it used, like I mentioned, WED uses the same technology for whimsical attractions like this and for solemn history in attractions like the Hall of Presidents. So it really solidified the concept of audio animatronics as a key storytelling tool. Although the Revue closed in Florida in 1980 and later in Tokyo in 2009, it remains a cult favorite among fans. And in many ways, its spirit lives on in Mickey's PhilharMagic, which continues a tradition of celebrating Disney's music in a grand theatrical setting. Now, like I mentioned, it didn't just entertain, it laid the groundwork for many other attractions. By bringing together characters and songs from across Disney's animated history, it pioneered this kind of key idea of a musical showcase attraction. Of course, it lives on today in Mickey's PhilharMagic, which debuted in 2003. PhilharMagic updated the formula, of course, with 3D film technology, immersive effects, and so forth. But Mickey's role as maestro remained at the heart of the experience, even though Donald Duck was the main character in the show. Now, the Revue also influenced other kinds of attractions, for example, the Country Bear Jamboree, and it proved that Imagineering could merge nostalgia with innovation. So in many ways, the reason why we're covering this attraction tonight, even though it's lesser known, it was truly the prototype for many of Disney's more modern musical theater attractions that we all know and love today. Now, for Disney collectors, the Revue holds a special place. That's an understatement. Original attraction posters, opening day park maps, souvenir postcards featuring Mickey as maestro are really rare treasures. When the show moved to Tokyo, new programs and brochures were printed, which today are prized as well. Now, even cast member costumes and internal documents occasionally surface, offering a glimpse behind the curtain. Because the Revue itself was relatively short-lived, its memorabilia is very especially valued, and it serves as tangible reminders of one of Disney's most unique attractions for sure. Since I mentioned the Country Bears, we should probably talk about how it compares to other attractions of its type. Of course, the Revue wasn't the only musical attraction Disney had created. Country Bear Jamboree was another opening day show, and it used audio animatronic bears to deliver a country music review, as you know. At Disneyland, America Sings, which we've covered on the series, celebrated American folk and popular songs with a rotating cast of characters. And of course, like we've mentioned, Mickey's PhilharMagic carried the revue spirit into the modern era. Now, even the Carousel of Progress, which was even more focused on innovation, used music to tie its story together. So each of these shows demonstrates Disney's belief that music is truly central to storytelling. Now, whether it was through fantasy, Americana, solemn events like the Hall of Presidents, or a technological spectacle, this was key to the experience. Now, the revue is still remembered by fans because it's captured something really timeless. It is one of Disney World's opening day attractions, and it carried historic weight. It had a massive cast of 80 characters. It was unlike anything else debuting at the time. The show blended nostalgia with innovation, with classic Disney songs, with audio animatronics. So it has a short run in Florida, true, but it made it feel rare, almost exclusive to fans, while its longer life in Tokyo gave it much more international reach. Now today, the revue lives on through memorabilia, word of mouth, shows like this, and fan communities who cherish it as a symbol of Disney's golden age and Imagineering's creativity. So as we close tonight, the revue stands as a birthday celebration of Mickey Mouse and his music. From its debut in '71 to its long run in Tokyo, this show elevated Mickey Mouse as maestro, guiding audiences through Disney's golden age of animation. It blended nostalgia with innovation, proving that Imagineering could use technology to honor the past while inspiring the future. Now, the revue has taken its final bow, but it remains a cherished memory for fans and a cult favorite in Disney history. And of course, its spirit lives on in PhilharMagic today, and every Disney musical showcase that celebrates the magic of song. In the end, the revue was more than an attraction. It was a tribute to Mickey himself, the heart of Disney's story. And that's one reason why we're highlighting it tonight on Mickey's birthday. So as we do, let's go into the analysis of the ride or the attraction and see what we come up with. From an immersion point of view, I give it a 6. The theming was cohesive and elegant. It was a concert hall, and it framed Mickey as maestro. The animatronic figures, although it was called out, these animatronics moved in very simple synchronized gestures. They were very charming, but relatively limited. The scene changes were fine. They moved smoothly between musical numbers, although they relied a little bit more on lighting changes than elaborate staging, which is fine. Audio was clear and nostalgic. Environmental immersion was fairly minimal. The characters were recognizable, of course, endearing, like Ka, playing the flute. They had relatively limited motion, and unfortunately, the non-original voices kind of reduced realism. But the attraction maintained a steady tone of whimsical celebration, and it never broke its theme as a concert hall. From a surprise point of view, probably the biggest surprise was the sheer number of characters appearing on stage, but the show itself lacked unexpected twists or dramatic reveals, and it was a pretty by-the-numbers attraction of different Disney songs, which is, again, not to take away from it, it's just a statement of fact. The effects were modest, focused on the animatronics as the key visual effect. The songs and characters were pretty well integrated, and the queue was simple. It was styled as a concert hall lobby, functional but not highly immersive. And one thing I neglected to point out was a little oopsie. One of the problems of the queue was the theater itself could hold 500 people. The queue itself, unfortunately, could only hold 300, which was a miss. So at any one point, you could probably see the attraction not really filling its theater so much. And that was due a lot to the notion of the queue only being able to hold 300 people. By the way, I want to highlight chat. Hey, Mr. Theme Park Casual Danny, hope you're doing fantastic. Great to see you. Thanks for coming along. So again, this may seem like a ding, but again, I'm giving it above average score here. For what it attempted to set out to do, it was great. And please don't take away, we've been covering lots of e-ticket attractions over the last few weeks. So don't take away from this that this was a dud attraction. Certainly not. We just have to, weigh these things accordingly. From a storytelling point of view, I also give it a 6. It had a very cohesive narrative, which is a clear line. It was a concert conducted by Mickey, and you got to enjoy Disney songs into one unified performance. Role assignment was clear. Mickey was a maestro, and each character had a defined musical role. Visual storytelling aspects were fine. Animatronics and staging conveyed the idea of a grand review. They were limited in motion, so that meant visuals leaned on recognition rather than dynamic drama. The show celebrated Disney's musical heritage, so it was a great nostalgic tribute to the studio's golden age. The concert hall lobby set the stage effectively, but like I mentioned, it was small, and there was minimal narrative to really build up the concept. However, it was perfectly aligned with Fantasyland's mission of honoring Disney's animated classics, and it was a great musical anthology of beloved films. Delight, I'll give it a slightly higher score because it was filled with nostalgia. Many people who saw this attraction loved it. It immediately conveyed charm and nostalgia, and it was a big hit with families. The emotional depth was gentle rather than profound, but it maintained a light, upbeat pace. Excuse me. It kind of lacked the dynamic highs and lows of more modern attractions that you see today. Of course, the unforgettable memory of this show was the sheer scale of it. Seeing 80 audio animatronic characters performing together was definitely its standout feature. Now, at the time, you have to keep in mind, at the time, it was highly original. Not only was it rare to see Mickey himself in an attraction, but it was rare to see an animatronic musical review. Unlike other attractions in Fantasyland, of course, we had Country Bears as well. But this one was unique because it really brought in the Disney legacy. Replayability, there wasn't much. It was the same show over and over again, but people who loved it loved to go watch it. Accessibility is no problem. It's just theater format. And it was a substantial experience at about 15 minutes. Some guests found it a bit slow, of course, compared to the thrill rides of the day. And as we've seen from its kind of demotion from an E ticket to a D ticket, you can kind of see how that affected over time. So overall, I give this a 6.32. Again, it's not a bad score. Keep in mind, anything above 5 is great. And I just want to highlight that because we focus so much on E-ticket rides, it's so important to think that a theme park shouldn't just be E-ticket, blow your eyes out attractions. Having these other types of attractions fill the park is so critical. And I'll probably talk about this another time. But having a good mixture of A, B, C, D, E-ticket rides really fleshes out a theme park. And I think we've seen in recent times that concept kind of go away. Everybody is so hyper-focused on E-ticket attractions that we kind of lose the idea of other attractions filling in the gap. Not everybody can go on E-ticket attractions. So to have these other attractions fill the gap and to provide wonderful experiences of their own is so critical to a theme park. And I think we're losing that a little bit. Anyway, I'm getting on my soapbox, so I'll step off for the moment. But it would be interesting to hear what you have to say. So the trivia answer tonight, like I mentioned, it actually opened as an E-ticket. And you can see this on the left. You see the Mickey Mouse Revue as an E-ticket. Eventually, it became a D-ticket attraction. And yeah, so that concludes the Mickey Mouse Revue tonight. We've been going strong for about 8 or 9 weeks in a row. So what I'd like to do is to take a little bit of a hiatus. Next week is Thanksgiving, so we're going to be off the air next week. I'd like to encourage you to get together with your families. I'm going down south to hang out with Dad and some other family members. And I hope you all have a wonderful Thanksgiving week. And we will be back on December 2nd, the week after. We don't yet have an attraction in mind. We have a few ideas. Might cover Submarine Voyage, might do Country Bears. Time will tell. If you have an attraction you'd like to see covered, please do go to the comments of this show afterwards and enter your idea of what you'd like to see highlighted, and I'll be happy to consider it. Again, this show can't run without you. This is not just my voice out there. This is a community effort. So I'd like to encourage you to lean in and highlight some attractions that you know and love that we can cover together. As always, I will close with Ray Bradbury's words. Gather round the next great campfire. Let us seek and know and understand and dream a new book, a new instruction book to fly great spaceship Earth through the uncharted seas of the future world. Lock in a dream that is your own. Find what truth is in your blood and beat a path from here to there. Your life is yours to own and be. The world is yours to shape and change. The stars are yours as just reward. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Hope you have a wonderful week. And again, happy birthday, Mickey Mouse. Take care.